Hi, so it's Ms. Dwyer, your STEM coordinator, and I'm here in my hometown of Harvard. This is one of my favorite fields. I'm at the edge of it right now. Behind me is some wetland, and the field itself is this way. It's one of my favorite fields because this is a great place to find monarch butterflies in the summertime. And there's some clues that this is where they come, which I will show you. Today I'm just doing a little free exploration. I'm just looking around to find interesting things and observe nature.
So whenever I go outside, I'm looking for things that I wonder about, things that I might like to write down in my science notebook, questions that I might have, things that I want to come back and explore at another time. Today I'm going to focus on the plants that I'm seeing, but you could be observing anything, and the next time I'll talk a little bit about the animals and how they go together. I also want to share a couple of safety tips. There's only two things we want to avoid in nature, and that's poison ivy and ticks. So I'll show you how to keep yourself safe from both.
Hello friends, so I am standing in front of a patch of one of the two things that we don't want to touch when we're in nature. And I believe I'm standing in front of a patch of poison ivy. So it looks different this time of year because it hasn't leafed out yet. But I'm going to show you what it looks like so that you'll know to stay away from this. Like I said, there's really only two things, poison ivy and ticks. Those are the two things we want to stay away from. At this time of year, poison ivy just looks like a bunch of gray sticks. So there's a couple of things that you can look for to tell if it is poison ivy or not. One is that it's climbing on something. So poison ivy grows on the ground, but it likes to climb on things like stone walls. This is a stone wall. It also likes to climb up tree trunks. So I try in this time of year not to touch any kind of vine that is climbing on a stone wall or on a tree trunk unless I know for sure what it is. The other thing to look for, it's an identifier, is this right here. So these little dried up berry seed looking things are the seed pods, I believe, of the poison ivy, and that's very common to see clusters of them. They're not all over the plant. So if you look around, most of it is just gray twig. But you will see probably some of them. And that's a good indication too that this is poison ivy. So I won't touch it. Even at this time of year without the leaves out, this is something that I would stay away from. It won't hurt you as long as you don't touch it, but it's just better to be aware of it. Quick safety check. So I am in a high grass environment, even though it's being down. So I am definitely wearing my rubber boots so that nothing crawls on me, especially no ticks. Even though it's a little early for them, it's not too early. So I just always keep myself protected and then I don't worry about it at all.
Now to the good stuff. This is the first thing that caught my eye. I actually saw it when I was tracking a bunch of birds that were making a ton of noise.
These are these white and gray and green fuzzy things on this bush that is kind of like a small tree. They're all over the place in this marsh. Some of them are green, like this one with little spiky things coming out, and some are gray or white, like these. Let's see if we can get a better picture of the spikies. Doesn't want to focus on the spikies. The greener they are, the more they have these little spikes. I'm going to have to maybe take one home to look at it a little closer. Here's my field microscope. Oh, there you can see. That's a good look at the spiky green, yellow things. I'm noticing that the twigs are red and brown. Sometimes when I'm not sure what something is, I look around and try to look for clues, what else is happening. So I'm here in a field in my hometown, Harvard. So I'm at the edge of the field. That's a field that some farmer plows, and this one grows hay, and then there's a stream running behind me into this marsh area, and that's where I found the fuzzy gray, white, green things. I also hear this big flock of birds that is behind these bushes. I saw them a minute ago. This big flock of very noisy blackbirds all in one place. So sometimes I look and try to compare my plant that I'm trying to figure out something about to other plants in the area too. So I think about this season and the temperature. It's really early spring, it's March. I'm looking at other plants that also have sort of spiky, fuzzy things on them. This one's right next door. But I'm noticing as I look at this that this one is pretty dried out. So the stems feel pretty dry. They look pretty dry. They're yellow and white compared to the stems of these that are red and brown. Let's see what else there is right here in the neighborhood. There's more things that are fuzzy back here. But again, these are pretty dry. I mean, they look like little tiny flowers. The stems broke pretty quick though. The stem is all yellow and white. So what is that telling me? And what is it telling me that these are different colors? Let's see if there's anything that rubs off of this. Let's see. I'll just run my finger along this yellow-green one and see what happens. Oh yeah, there's some yellow-green that rubbed off. I don't know if you can see it too well. Let's see if I can get a little bit more. Let's see. Now, normally I wouldn't be bothering this plant, but there's a lot of it in this area, and there's a lot of these little things that I'm investigating, so I think it's okay to take a little sample. So I can just barely see a little of that. So I'm going to take home a sample so that I can look at it a little closer under my field microscope. So I just took a little twig off, and I only take a little small sample because that's all I need. And I only take it in this case because I know that this plant won't harm me, and also because I know that there's a lot of it in this area. So I don't think that it's rare. And I noticed as soon as I broke it off, if you look at the end here, it's pretty green on the inside, and it's also kind of wet. So I'll take a closer look on that. But I'm comparing that to my dry plants because I feel like that's giving me clues. So I found one more kind of fuzzy looking thing. But I think that this is from last year because again, it's very dry looking and there's no leaves or anything on these stems. Actually, maybe there are something like that. There are some little things. I'm not sure what they are. There's a whole bunch of them. To me, they look like the center of a flower. So I bet they're from last year, but I'm going to take a little sample of these two to compare to my others. So I love these, and they're coming up all in these wet areas right now. I think that they look like aliens from a movie, which is why I like them so much. I think they have very cool colors. And I'm wondering if they're flowers. So I think what I'm going to do is come back. I'm looking for insects because I know that flowers and insects go together because insects pollinate flowers. So I'm going to keep looking, and as these come up a little bit more, I'm going to come back, see if I can find any evidence. So I think that I mentioned that this is my favorite field to look for monarch butterflies in the late summer. The way that I knew that they were here is because there's a lot of milkweed. So the milkweed's not up yet, but we can still see the old seed pods, so I'll show you one. So you can look around, see where the milkweed is, because that helps you find the monarchs come summer. So here are the old milkweed pods. They're all gray and dried up. You can see a little bit of their fuzz that the seeds stick to hang from them, and they're on these long stalks. This is a sign that monarch caterpillars will be here this summer because this is the main food source for the monarch larvae, or for the caterpillars. This is what they eat.
So I was just walking around and I found something really curious. This is just on the dead dry grass. Do you see the shape of it? I am very curious about this. I just noticed that there's more of them. I'm wondering if this is part of the plant or if this is something that an animal made, maybe an insect. I don't know. I'm gonna have to find out. I'm gonna have to draw this one. Look at how there's all those lines and the ridges down the back. There's two of them overlapping. I'm very curious.
So here's my small collection from today. I'm going to take out my science notebook and draw them because that helps me observe them more closely. And I can really see the detail and look for things. This one I'm still pretty interested in. When you look at it from different angles, you see different things, like how it was shaped around these stalks of hay and these crazy lines. It feels very lightweight, so I don't know if this is something that's already done, like an egg case or some kind of casing for an insect, or if it's something that's waiting for spring. I guess we'll find out. And I'm also very interested in my fuzzies. So I got out my toolkit to help me explore a little bit more. These are the things that I usually carry with me when I go outside. This one in particular, there's a hand lens or a magnifying glass, tweezers, a little notepad, pencil, a scissor, and so just some piece of cardboard, which I use. I'll explain that later. And this is my little field microscope. I really like this. It's called a Carson Micro Mini, and it's one of my favorite new tools. It has a flashlight built into it, and it also has a lens for magnifying things, which I'll show in a second. So to use the Micro Mini, I turn on the light for the microscope, and the key is to get very close to whatever object you're looking at. So I actually took off one of the fuzzies right there, and you actually have to put the lens pretty much right on top of it, and then look through. But what I'm seeing in there is very interesting. So I'll take a couple of pictures of what I'm seeing, because the closer you get, you see different things. All right, so that's what we're looking at. Lots of gray fuzzy in between, and then there's these green cones with these, leaf or flower type structures sitting on top that look a little damp to me. So what on earth are we looking at? And just for comparison, let's take away the microscope. That's what we're looking at, which came from that twig right there. I'm about to look at one of the gray ones, because these are the kind of yellow neon green ones. So here's the gray one. It's more fuzzy, and there aren't those cones and the other structures, but you can see that green underneath. I'm going to try and get a better picture in a sec. I was interested in how green that stem is too, so I'm going to cut it open and look at that for a sec. So here's my science journal page about one of the strange things I found in the monarch field. I just wrote the date and where I was, my little observation. I wrote what the weather was like, and then I drew my picture and added my diagrams. I drew a little close up. Tried to get as much detail as possible, and I noticed a lot of things when I was drawing it. Like, I noticed that it had this special webby part attaching it to the stalk of grass, and I noticed a lot that it looked like the same color, but it was shinier on these parts. So that was really interesting too, and I wonder why. And then as I was drawing, I thought of some questions. So I was wondering, did an insect make this? Is it some kind of egg case, like you sometimes find in the fields or even on the beach? Is it the shell of something? Is it another plant? I don't know. I decided what I would do is I would just put it into a box that has some holes in it, so that if there's anything alive in there, maybe it'll come out. So I just found this box in my kitchen, and it has little holes in the side, and I'm just going to leave it there for a couple of days and see what happens. It feels pretty dry to me, so I don't think there's anything alive in there, but I just wonder. So I'm going to leave it for a couple of days, and then I'll come back to it. So I'm excited because I found out what this is, and I can't wait to tell you about it, and I can't wait to tell you how I figured it out. I've also changed my plan for it a little bit since I know a little bit more about it now, so I'll tell you about that next time. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope that you'll go out and explore and find things that you're interested in and questions that you have. Write about those in your science notebook, and if you do, I hope you'll share them with me. I haven't put any special template in the Google Classroom today, but feel free to go back and use what I put in there for lesson 2, or just start your own notebook in any format that works for you. Have fun, be safe, and keep exploring.